They brought a British book, in which were written the Gospels, and the knight stood forth alone, and swore her guilt, and lo, the knight was smitten. A hand appeared, and struck him to the bone, behind the neck, and down he went like stone. His eyes burst from their sockets in his face, in sight of all assembled in that place, and as he fell a voice was heard to ring, Thou hast defamed the innocent and meek, a daughter of the church before the king. Thus hast thou done, and yet I did not speak. Aghast at such a marvel, faces seek each other in amaze at the unknown, dreading a judgment, all but she alone. Great was their fear, and great their penitence, for having made a wrongful accusation, and felt suspicion of her innocence. And in the end, the heavenly visitation, with all that Constance had spoken in meditation, converted Allah. Many in that place were turned to Christ. O blessed grace! The treacherous knight was slain for his untruth. By Allah's doom there was no tarrying, though Constance felt a deep pity for his youth. Then Jesus in his mercy caused the king to wed this holy maiden. Belfries ring in solemn joy, and Constance the serene, by ordinance of Christ, is made a queen. Who grieved at this? Who was it took no part in this rejoicing? But Donegild, the mother of the king. Her tyrant heart felt it would burst in two, for she was filled with raging spite at what her son had willed. She thought it gross dishonor to his state to take this foreign creature for his mate. I do not choose to stuff and chaff and straw my lengthy tale, I rather seek the corn. Why then relate the majesty and awe of course on course upon the marriage morn, who blew upon a trumpet or a horn? But let me pluck the fruit out of my story. They ate, danced, drank, they sang, and were in glory. They went to bed as reason was and right, for wives, albeit very holy things, are bound to suffer patiently at night such necessary pleasures as the king's, or others who have wedded them with rings. Her holiness, well, she must do without it, just for a little, and that's all about it. He got a boy upon her, then and there, and to the constable, and a bishop too, entrusted Constance. Being forced to fare once more to Scotland, there was work to do against his enemies. Constance, mild and true, and humble, heavy with her child, lay still within her chamber, waiting on Christ's will. Time came to fullness, and she bore a boy. Maurice they christened him, in great content. The constable chose a man in his employ, and wrote the king a letter to be sent by him with tidings of this glad event, and other news that brooked of no delay. The envoy took the letter and went his way. This man, upon a private calculation, rode quickly to the mother of the king, and proffered her a courteous salutation in his own tongue. Madam, rejoice! I bring you news enough to make the heavens ring. 100,000 times in thankful joy the queen has been delivered of a boy. Look, here are the sealed letters with the news, which I must bear with all the speed I can, to greet your son the king, and should you choose to write him, I am your serving man. Not at the moment, Donegild began. Stay here until tomorrow. Take your rest. Then I'll say, and added, then I'll say, as I think best. The messenger drank deep of ale and wine, and all the letters secretly were cheated out of his box. He slept there like a swine. Another letter then was counterfeited, but with utmost skill, and when completed, directed to King Allah to appear, as from the constable, as you shall hear. The letter said the queen had been delivered, but of some horrible fiend or creature lured from hell itself, and that the castle shivered at the sight of it. It could not be endured. Its mother was an elf, they were assured, a wandering witch of charms and sorcery. None could abide her hateful company. Great King Allah's grief at what he read, he spoke to no one of the woes he bore, but wrote again with his own hand and said, Welcome to the world of Christ for evermore. To me, that now am learned his lore, Lord, welcome. Be thy pleasure and thy will. All mine I place at thy commandment still. Preserve this infant, be it foul or fair, until I come, and let my wife be nursed. Christ, when he wills, can bless me with an heir, one that can please me better than the first. And sealing this in private, his tears burst forth from his eyes. The messenger went away, bearing the letter. There's no more to say. O messenger, sodden in drunkenness, strong as your breath, your limbs are all astray, you blab the secrets that you should repress. Your mind is gone, you chatter like a jay, your features are distorted, turned to clay. Wherever there is drunkenness about, no secret can be hidden, make no doubt. O Donegild, I have no English worthy, tyrant of thy malignity and spying, and therefore to the devil I refer thee. Let him make poems of your treacherous prying, you man-shaped monster. No, by God, I'm lying. You are a very fiend, and I can tell, wherever you are, your spirit is in hell. The envoy left the king and once again reached the Queen Mother's court to pass the night, and Donegild was quick to entertain the man as hospitably as she might. He underpinned his girdle pretty tight, boozing away, and snored with gummy eyes all night until the sun began to rise. Again they stole his letters, and the pith of what they forged instead of them was now, King Allah bids the constable forthwith, on pain of hanging and the royal vow, for no consideration to allow Constance within his kingdom. Let her bide no longer than 3 days and half a tide into the very ship in which he found her. Let her be put and so thrust out to sea, her and her son, with all her gear around her, and charge her never to return to me. O Constance, tremble with at the harsh decree. What dreams will haunt your troubled sleeping, filled with dread? All this was planned by Donegild. On the next morning, when the day was full, the envoy woke and took the shortest way toward the castle. To the constable he gave the letter, who in great dismay cried out repeatedly, Alas the day, Lord Jesus Christ! How can the world go on with such a mort of wickedness thereon? Almighty God, and can it be thy will? Art thou a righteous judge? How can it be that thou shouldst suffer innocence to spill, and leave the wicked in prosperity? O kindest Constance, O grief to me, to be thy executioner, or pay it with my life. There is no other way. They wept, both young and old, throughout the place, at this accursed command the king had sent, and Constance, with a pale and deadly face, arose the 4th day after. Down she went toward the ship, fully obedient to the will of Christ, and kneeling on the shore said, Welcome, Lord, thy word for evermore, that he that protected me from unjust blame when I first came among you will allow no shame or harm, will shield me just the same in salt sea, although I know not how, as strong as ever he was, so is he now. In him I trust, and in his mother dear, my rudder and my sail, what need I fear? Her little child lay weeping in her arm, and kneeling with him pityingly she said, Peace, little son, I will not do you harm. And then she took a kerchief from her head, and laid it on his little eyes instead. She rocked him in her arms and lulled his cries, and up to heaven's height she cast her eyes. Mary, she said, O maid and mother bright, truth is that by a woman's egging on mankind was lost, condemned to death and night, for which thy son was rent and spit upon. Thou sawest his torment. What compassion can ever be between thy sufferings there and any other woe that man can bear? Thy child thou sawest slain before thine eyes. My little child lives still and seeks thy aid. Thou to whom every woeful spirit cries, Bright lady, glory of womanhood, fair maid, haven of refuge, star that cannot fade, have pity on my child. Thy gentleness pities all sorrowful creatures in distress. O little child, alas, what is thy guilt that never sinned as yet, and couldst not do? Why would thy hard-hearted father have thee split? O constable, is there no mercy in you? Keep my sweet child. O must he suffer too? Let him but stay, or if you fear the blame, kiss him but once, and in his father's name. And then she turned her gaze toward the land and cried aloud, Hard husband, ah, goodbye! And she arose and went along the strand toward the vessel, and the crowd drew nigh, and still she begged her baby not to cry, and took her leave, and with a holy heart, crossing herself, made ready to depart. The ship was victualled well enough indeed, abundantly for her in such a case, with necessities to supply her needs sufficiently. Thank God for all his grace. May he send light to shine upon her face, and waft her home. What better can I say? Over the open sea she drove her way.